It is a cruel joke when the one you are not supposed to love becomes the only one your heart beats for. And it is even crueler when that man wears your brother's ring. If fate was trying to break me, it was succeeding with perfect precision. When I first saw Daniel, I wanted to laugh. Not because he was funny, though his smile carried the kind of warmth that could melt ice off the coldest heart, but because of how unfair life suddenly felt. He was too perfect, too real, too unreachable. My brother introduced him at Thanksgiving dinner as his fiancé, and in that moment I understood something terrifying. I was doomed. The dinner table buzzed with conversation and laughter, but I could barely hear any of it. I watched Daniel in secret, memorizing the way he tucked his blonde-brown hair behind his ear, how his voice carried a calm authority softened by kindness. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but every word he spoke commanded attention. When he laughed with my parents, when he helped my niece cut her turkey, when his hand brushed against my brother's sit, all carved a wound inside me I couldn't close. I was 21 then, a senior in college, reckless and raw. Daniel was 28, already a man who had built something of himself. He worked as a civil rights lawyer in New York, his presence radiating the kind of maturity and integrity I thought only existed in books. He wasn't just beautiful, was good, and that made it worse. From the start, I hated myself for the thoughts that kept me awake at night. He was engaged to my brother, Michael, the golden boy of the family. Michael was everything I wasn't. Successful, steady, the eldest son who never disappointed. Falling for his fiancée was not just betrayal, it was unforgivable. But no matter how much I tried, I couldn't stop. The days turned into weeks, and Daniel became a ghost in my chest. Every family gathering was torture. Every smile he gave me was a knife. I wanted to confess, to scream, to demand the universe give me back my peace. Instead, I buried my feelings, wearing indifference like armor while secretly feeding on the scraps of his presence. But secrets have a way of rotting the soul. It happened on a winter night, months before the wedding. Snow had fallen thick outside, and I returned home from college earlier than expected. The house was quiet except for the sound of laughter from the living room. Daniel was there, alone with my little niece, teaching her how to build a snowman with nothing but socks and couch pillows. He looked up when I entered, his eyes lighting in surprise. "You're home," he said like it mattered. Something inside me cracked that night. We spent hours talking while the little girl drifted to sleep between us. He told me about his childhood in Michigan, how his father never approved of him, how he found solace in books and law. I told him about the loneliness of being the second son, about the pressure of being invisible in Michael's shadow. We weren't supposed to share that much, but somehow we did. And when his hand brushed mine as he passed me a blanket, the silence burned. I pulled away before the temptation could consume me, but it was too late. I had already fallen too deep. From then on, every interaction became a battlefield. The glances across the table, the accidental touches, the conversations that lingered too long. I told myself it was one-sided, that Daniel was simply kind, but sometimes his gaze lingered too, heavy with something I didn't dare name. The breaking point came one evening in April. My brother was away on a business trip, and Daniel came over to drop off documents for my father. I should have avoided him, but fate cornered me again. The storm outside kept him from leaving, and we were trapped in the house together. We sat by the fireplace, the storm raging beyond the windows, and I could feel the weight of every unspoken word pressing down on us. "You're quiet tonight," Daniel said, his voice soft. "I shouldn't be here with you," I blurted, the confession slipping out before I could stop it. His eyes widened, the firelight flickering across his face. "Why?" I swallowed hard, every nerve in me trembling. "Because when I'm near you, I can't breathe right. And it's wrong, because you belong to him." The silence that followed was unbearable. I expected anger, rejection, disgust. Instead, Daniel's expression softened with a sadness that nearly broke me. "You think I don't notice?" he whispered. "You think I don't feel it too?" The world collapsed. My heart both soared and shattered in the same breath. He admitted it. He felt something. But it didn't matter, we were bound by blood and vows not yet spoken. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't touch beyond the brush of his hand on mine. But that was enough to ignite a secret flame between us, one that burned in every glance and every stolen moment afterward. I began to live in the shadows of my brother's engagement, chasing fragments of a man I could never truly have. I told myself I didn't want to ruin their relationship, that I only wanted to be near him, to hold on to the scraps. But love is selfish, and it grows even in forbidden soil. By the time summer came, the guilt was unbearable. Daniel had a son from a previous relationship, a quiet, brown-eyed boy named Ethan who adored him more than anything. Watching Daniel with his son only deepened my longing. He wasn't just a man to love. He was a father, someone whose life was bigger than my obsession. And then, like a blade through my chest, came the moment I had dreaded most. Daniel told us he was leaving. The wedding was postponed indefinitely. My brother raged. My parents were shocked. But all I heard was the hollow ring of Daniel's voice when he said he needed to put Ethan first. He didn't even look at me as he packed his things. When he drove away with his son, my heart broke so violently I thought I would never recover. Daniel didn't look back. His car disappeared into the horizon with Ethan strapped in the back seat, and the silence left behind felt like a funeral. My brother cursed him for weeks. My parents shook their heads in disappointment, and the world went on as if nothing had changed. But inside me, everything was shattered. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. Nights bled into mornings where I woke drenched in sweat, reaching for someone who wasn't there. The walls of my room bore witness to my grief, how I pressed my face into the pillow to muffle the sound of my sobs, how I clawed at the air like I could pull him back. It was pathetic. I was pathetic. Months passed. Michael moved on with the stubbornness of a man who refused to admit defeat, throwing himself into work and pretending the broken engagement didn't bruise his ego. I should have been relieved that his anger wasn't directed at me, but I couldn't escape the gnawing guilt. He had lost his fiancé, and though Daniel had chosen to leave for his son, a part of me wondered if my presence had tilted the scales. By fall, I returned to college for my final year. I tried to lose myself in classes, in new friendships, in the chaos of young adulthood. I kissed strangers at parties, hoping their mouths would erase the memory of his. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel holding his son's hand, smiling with that quiet warmth that ruined me. It wasn't until winter break that fate twisted the knife again. I was in a bookstore downtown, searching for a gift for my niece, when I heard a laugh I would have recognized anywhere. My heart froze before I turned. And there he was, Daniel, taller than I remembered, a little thinner, his hair longer. Ethan was at his side, now older by nearly a year, tugging on his father's coat sleeve and begging for a superhero comic. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He looked up, and when our eyes met, time folded in on itself. "Ryan," he whispered, my name breaking on his lips like a prayer. I should have walked away. I should have pretended not to know him. But my feet moved of their own accord, closing the distance. Ethan greeted me shyly, and Daniel introduced me with a gentleness that made my chest ache. We talked about nothing, the weather, the books, the little things, but underneath the surface, the air was electric, trembling with everything unsaid. Before leaving, Daniel pressed a slip of paper into my hand. His number. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the digits until my vision blurred. I told myself not to call, that I couldn't open that wound again. But the truth was I already knew I would. And I did. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours. The second, 5. Soon we were talking every night, voices tangled across the miles like invisible threads. He told me about the struggles of being a single father, about the prejudice he faced as a gay man raising a child. I told him about my fears of never living up to my family's expectations, about the shame of loving someone I shouldn't have. With him, I was raw and unguarded, and he never turned away. By spring, he invited me to visit him in Chicago, where he had settled with Ethan. I went terrified and exhilarated. Seeing him again in his modest apartment, watching him cook dinner while Ethan colored at the table, I realized something. I didn't just love him. I loved the life he had built, the quiet strength it took to protect it. But love is never simple. One night, After Ethan was asleep, we sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Daniel's hand brushed mine, and I finally broke. "I can't keep pretending," I said, my voice shaking. "I've loved you since the first day I saw you. And I know it's wrong, I know what it means, but I can't take it back." Daniel stared at me, his jaw tight, his eyes glistening. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he reached out, cupping my face like I was something fragile, something holy. "I tried to fight it too," he admitted. "But Ryan, every time I look at you, I see the life I want but was too afraid to claim." And then he kissed me. It wasn't reckless or hurried, it was gentle, reverent, like he was sealing a vow. My whole body trembled as years of longing finally found release. When we pulled apart, I knew nothing would ever be the same. We spent the rest of the night in each other's arms, whispering truths we had buried too long. For the first time, I let myself believe in a future that didn't end in heartbreak. Still, reality demanded we face it. There was my brother, my family, the history that bound us. When I told Daniel we couldn't live in hiding forever, he nodded. "I don't want to," he said. "If we do this, we do it honestly." The following summer, we returned to my hometown together. Ethan held my hand nervously as we walked up the driveway, Daniel steady at my side. My brother's expression when he saw us was unreadable: shock, anger, disbelief, all tangled together. For a moment, I feared he would strike me. But then, something unexpected happened. Michael looked at Ethan, clinging to his father, then at me, and finally at Daniel. His face softened, just a fraction, as if the weight of the past year had worn down his fury. "You better not screw this up," he muttered, his voice rough. And then he walked away. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. My parents took longer, their disappointment heavy, their silence sharper than words. But over time, they saw how Daniel treated me, how Ethan became part of our family gatherings, how happiness bloomed where once there had been only shame. Slowly, grudgingly, acceptance grew. Years later, when I look back, I realize the journey was never just about forbidden love. It was about the courage to claim it, to fight for it, even when the world said no. Daniel and I built a life together, one filled with laughter, arguments, late-night talks, and the chaos of raising Ethan. We weren't perfect, but we were real. And that was enough. The boy who once cried into his pillow at night finally learned that love, even when it begins in the shadows, can still find the light. And on quiet evenings, when Daniel's hand rests in mine and Ethan, now older, taller, leans against my shoulder, I know the truth I once thought impossible. I didn't lose when Daniel left. I was only waiting for the moment when he could truly stay. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.